Hello there, you summoner, how you doing? My name is Tia, and today I'm going to run you through an exciting set of upcoming changes for 11.8. There are some big buffs and nerfs coming across all roles next patch, and we'll be covering them in this video. Make sure to hit that sub button though, and let's jump right into it. Of course, the first thing we'll need to cover are the upcoming skins. With the release of the new champion, Space Groove Gwen will be available for purchase. On top of this, we've got Black Frost Scion, Black Frost Vel'Koz, Dragon Guardian Galio, Dragon Slayer Kayle, and Dragon Slayer Twitch coming up. Definitely give these skins a look to see if you want to get a hold of them next patch. Moving forward, let's start balance changes off with item nerfs. Urgot has been way too powerful and Riot is hitting him by nerfing Titanic HYDRA. Unfortunately, this is going to hit a ton of different champions. Several bruisers are going to have to change builds or eat slight reductions in early to mid-game damage. The bonus attack damage from Titanic HYDRA will be reduced from 1% total HP to 2% bonus HP. Ultimately, this means that you'll lose a lot of damage early on, especially if you're building this item first or second. Ionian Boots of Lucidity are currently dominating the meta, and next patch the price will go up from 900 to 950. This is a small nerf that makes the purchase a little less economical. Now, let's move on to item buffs. Frozen Heart is set to receive a small buff next patch. The bonus armor is going up from 70 to 80. Hopefully, this will encourage more players to build it when they want to help their team, rather than itemizing for themselves, which is typical in solo queue. Buffing Frozen Heart should make taking one for the team less punishing. Also, I want to quickly let you guys know that you should check out ProGuides.com. We have tons of resources for you guys as well as coaches who would love to help you improve. But let's get back to items and we'll wrap it up with adjustments. Moonstone Renewer is getting a load of changes next patch. The Starlit Grace heal effect is being changed from 50 to 100 based on level to 60 flat. Also, rather than increasing the healing effect from the item while in combat, the item will instead increase your heal and shield power by 4% per second in combat, up to a cap of 20%. Finally, the Mythic passive bonus is being changed from 5 ability haste to 10 extra healing on Moonstone Renewer. In terms of overall healing, this feels like a big nerf for most of the game. Since you're starved for gold, finishing up legendary items is a big hassle. One thing I expect to become more popular because of this change is finishing in early Medjais. It's a pretty cheap legendary item that'll fit into a build when you're snowballing. Next up, Shurelia's Battle Song is also receiving changes. First, the Inspire effect will no longer grant 35 to 55 magic damage for the next 3 damaging instances. However, a new passive will be added, granting you and an ally 25% movement speed when you empower or protect an ally. The Mythic passive bonus stat is also being changed from movement speed to ability haste. RIP Singed. Staff of Flowing Water is also getting a big change. Rather than providing 15% movement speed and 20 to 40 ability power for 3 seconds, it'll grant 20 ability haste and 20 to 40 ability power for 3 seconds. This makes the buff a lot less flexible, and players will need to be more precise with their timing. It provides a combat bonus, but the loss of movement speed means that the item has gone from a great all-around purchase to a specific niche purchase. Hextech Rocket Belt is having its stats moved around a bit. While the health is being lowered from 350 to 250, it'll provide an extra 6 flat magic penetration. This makes the item closer to one suited for a glass cannon assassin build. Finally, Chemtech Putrefier is getting a few changes. The ability power is going up from 50 to 55, and the passive is getting some changes as well. When you heal or shield an ally, you'll provide both your ally as well as yourself grievous wounds for the next attack. Overall, this is a nice buff for the item, as a single spell can allow you to apply healing reduction to multiple targets. Alright, items are covered, let's talk about champion balance. We've got more Gnar nerfs coming up. His W's movement speed bonus is being decreased from 30 to 75% to 20 to 80%. While you do end up with a bit more movement speed by the late game, levels 1 through 10 are weaker than before. Once you have level 2 ultimate, however, you break even. Loss of early game movement speed will make it harder to snowball, as you won't be able to chase or kite enemies as effectively as before. But before we move forward, here's our question of the day. Which champion do you think is severely underrated right now? In my opinion, it's gotta be Qiyana. While there are times I see her kind of fall over and fail miserably, a good Qiyana has so much impact in games. Her laning is pretty strong, especially because she can stealth and make it hard to fight back. However, her roams and team fights are absolutely disgusting, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on the pick. But that's enough about me. I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Next, we have a bunch of nerfs for Yorick. He's popped off this patch and Riot is immediately taking action. First, turrets will no longer target Yorick when his Mistwalkers attack an enemy. Instead, they'll target the Mistwalker. However, the Mistwalker damage is going down from 2 to 99 plus 30% total AD to 2 to 88 plus 25% total AD. Also, when Mistwalkers jump onto an enemy, they'll deal 100% damage instead of 200%. Another effect is being added to his E as well. Mistwalkers will deal 40% increased damage for the next 8 attacks on marked enemies. Finally, turrets will attack the Maiden when she does damage to enemy champions rather than targeting Yorick. Turrets will also prioritize melee and ranged minions over the Maiden. While the E change might seem like a buff, Mistwalkers were nerfed, and most of the time, they won't be able to hit you 8 times when you're trying to run away. Dr. Mundo is receiving changes to make him a stronger top laner and a weaker jungler. First, his passive healing is being increased from 1.5% max HP to 2.5% max HP. Also, his Q's damage cap against minions and monsters is being lowered from 300 to 500 to 100 to 500. RIP clear speed. Q will refund 100% instead of 50% health on champion hit, and E's flat attack damage boost is going down by 10. Rumble has been finding too much success in the mid lane rather than top lane, so he's also receiving some adjustments to steer him in a clear direction. First, his magic resistance is being lowered from 32 to 28, and his magic resistance per level from 1.25 to 0.75. This already makes him weaker in the mid lane, as he's squishier than before. His passive's bonus magic damage is also being changed from 25 to 110 to 10 to 50 plus 6% of the target's maximum health, and while overheated, Rumble also gains 50% bonus attack speed. This should help Rumble fight against all the bruisers and tanks up top. Also, his E is getting a huge buff because it'll reduce the target's magic resistance by 10% stacking additively, and this increases to 15% in the danger zone. That's it for the top lane, so let's run through jungle changes next. Lee Sin is first on the list. His E's cooldown is being reduced from 10 to 8. This is actually a huge buff to Lee Sin's clear speed as well as his combat power. He'll likely begin to dominate the meta as he's already such a popular pick. Next, Zac is getting a nice buff to his W. The damage is going up from 25 to 85 plus 2% HP per 100 AP to 35 to 95 plus 4% per 100 AP. This increased damage will help players out regardless of which build they're going. Increased clear speeds as well as more damage in fights should make him a powerful pick when your team needs a tank jungler. Speaking of tanks, Rammus is getting big changes. His Q's base damage is being reduced from 100 to 240 to 100 to 220. His W also includes a new feature that allows you to extend the duration by basic attacking. You can increase the duration by 0.4 seconds for each attack up to a cap of 4 seconds. Rammus's E duration is also being reduced from 1.5 to 2.5 seconds to 1.2 to 2 seconds. The biggest change is to his ultimate though. When cast, Rammus will leap into the air and slam down, dealing 100 to 250 damage plus 0.6 AP. This also slows enemies by 15 to 20% for 1.5 seconds. After landing, Rammus will generate shockwaves at the landing location for 4 seconds, dealing 20 to 40 plus 0.1 AP damage per wave. The initial slow can be stacked up to 4 times this way. Rammus can cast this ability while using Powerball, and enemies hit will be knocked up at the center of his ultimate. Zed is getting huge changes to help him jungle. His passive's on-target cooldown will only be applicable to champions, and monster damage bonus will be removed. However, the passive monster damage cap is being changed from 200 to 500 to 300 flat and will only apply to epic monsters. Darius is also getting a change to his passive. Rather than dealing 175% damage to monsters, it'll deal 300%. Maybe this time, he'll actually end up becoming a playable jungler. Mordekaiser is also getting big jungle buffs. His passive's damage cap against monsters is being increased from 28 to 164 to 180 at all levels. Also, his passive will apply stacks and refresh the timer on all monsters, rather than only large ones. Morgana's up next. Her W will have its bonus monster damage increased from 150 to 200%. Overall, all these changes noticeably increase the off-meta jungler's clear speeds, and we'll have to see how well they do next patch. Finally, Diana's passive damage against monsters is going up from 150 to 300%. Also, the attack speed bonus is going up from 10 to 40% to 20 to 40%, which will of course help out mid-lane Diana players as well. Speaking of the mid lane, let's go there next. Annie is getting nerfed, but honestly, it's not going to make a difference. Her W's mana cost is going up from 70 to 110 to 80 to 120. I expected something bigger, and while she'll be weaker than before, this nerf won't have a very big impact. Orianna is also getting nerfed because she's too strong in competitive play. Her E's bonus resistances are being lowered from 10 to 30 to 6 to 30. She should be easier to abuse early on, especially by AD champions, as Orianna is extremely fragile. Now that her E will only provide 6 bonus armor and MR early on, an early serrated Dirk is going to feel so much stronger against her. This might also force Orianna players to put an earlier second point into her E if they want to avoid getting destroyed in trades. LeBlanc is getting a huge buff next patch. Her Q is getting 10 more damage at all ranks. And you can activate the damage twice, so this actually means 20 more damage. In the early game, this is a gigantic buff, and in the late game, it's still quite relevant. Since LeBlanc is so snowbally, however, this early game buff will definitely make her a threat next patch. She should be able to force enemies to use their potions earlier, pick up some easier solo kills, and have an easier time winning trades in general. As we all know, a small lead early can allow LeBlanc to roam elsewhere and absolutely dominate. Cassiopeia is getting a nice but small buff as well. Her E's mana cost is being reduced from 50 flat to 50 to 42 based on rank. While this won't be that big of a deal in the late game, it'll definitely help players out when they're not able to get blue buff. Especially when trying to take objectives like Baron or Dragon, Cassiopeia runs out of mana very quickly. This buff should make it a little less risky to start these objectives up. VLADIMIR is getting a pretty big mid to late game buff as well. His Q's cooldown is being reduced from 9 to 5 seconds to 9 to 4 seconds. At level 9, when he maxes his Q, this is a pretty big buff. While a 1 second reduction isn't a big deal on abilities with long cooldowns, the difference between 5 and 4 seconds is pretty big. This is a 20% reduction, and if you throw on ability haste, VLADIMIR's damage output has gone up quite significantly. That wraps up the mid lane, so let's head on over to the bottom lane next. They buffed Samira after gutting her, and now they're finally giving APHELIOS some love. Next patch, APHELIOS' passive lethality is going up from 3 to 18 to 3.5 to 21. His ultimate's Calibrum damage per mark is going up from 40 to 100 to 50 to 110, and ultimate Severum healing up from 250 to 500 to 275 to 525. With several small buffs, APHELIOS should hopefully be in a better spot next patch, but don't get your hopes up quite yet. Finally, we have one last support change. It's no surprise that THRESH is still in need of a nerf. His last one didn't change very much, so this time Riot has decided to take things a bit more seriously. THRESH's E cooldown is being increased from 9 seconds flat to 11 to 9 seconds based on rank. If anything, this nerf forces players to decide between maxing Lantern or Flay. There's more thought that needs to go into choosing, as his W's utility is far too valuable. If you want to play extremely aggressively and give up that utility, you'll obviously need to put some points into E. Otherwise, you'll eat a 2-second cooldown nerf for a majority of the game. That'll wrap up the upcoming changes for patch 11.8. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check out the description for a link to join our Discord as well. Until then, I hope you guys win your games and continue to take care of yourselves, because I want to see you in our next video. And now we're gonna do jumping jacks. 1, 2, until they say cut. We're doing it together. We're doing it together. Summer bodies. Just chant summer bodies. Okay.